MKSS is all about and how it has come into existence?
MKSS is a mass organization of peasants. It has got a certain background. In fact, almost 14 years ago, during JP's movement, most of us who are active today in MKSS were active then. And I was especially working in the villages of Jahanabad area. With great hopes, we participated in the big movement, which is a historical movement. Now, in 77, after Janta government was formed, and we realized that there is hardly any difference, because the people who formed the new government were no better or no worse for them compared to the old ones. Then we sit together to analyze the whole movement, and we found that though revolutionary rhetoric was used for the movement, JP gave the slogan of total revolution, but it was not revolutionary in essence and content, because it had no class basis. The movement was manned by middle classes and led by upper middle class and upper classes. So until and unless a movement as its spearheading force has got working class, agrarian working class, it can't be revolutionary in nature. And secondly, ultimately where the movement ended up, it ended up with the formation of a new government manned by the people belonging to the same class. So structurally there was no difference. All the change which did come through the movement was of the superstructure, not of the infrastructure. Therefore, after the analysis we decided if something relevant has to be done to change the structure of the rural India, it has to be an agrarian class struggle. And with this understanding and analysis, we started working fresh. But now we started working with a class orientation. So since 77 onwards, we started having class analysis of the rural areas, understanding the problems of the people through them, organizing them, and ultimately when we were able to organize people and take up their problems, then we formally launched in 81 MKSS, Mazdoor Kisan Shakti Samiti. As the name makes it clear, it's an organization of agrarian workers and peasants both. Together they fight against the feudal oppression and exploitation. So MKSS, though it has got Marxism-Leninism as its ideology in a way, still it has got deep roots in Indian soil and society. It derives all its understanding out of the concrete realities of the Bihar villages, rather than from some books and some theoretical perceptions. Secondly, CPIML has got a historical background. It was a big movement which was launched in West Bengal, which is called Naxalite movement because of the origin of the movement from a place called Naxalbadi. But most of that movement was mainly underground with lot of militant activities. Whereas our MKSS, our movement is totally on the ground. It's an open mass organization of the rural poor, which is taking up their own problems, their own issues. And many of the issues which we are taking up at this stage are in fact the laws which are not implemented. All the laws concerning the agrarian reforms, for example, the Minimum Wages Act is there, and Bandhua Mazduri Abolition Act is there, Land Sealing Act is there, Sharecroppers Act is there, and none of them is implemented anywhere in Bihar. Neither the bureaucracy is interested nor the politicians are interested, because vested interests are too powerful in Bihar.
Now, you mentioned that MKSS was an organization that is overground, and yet the accusation against MKSS always has been, in our talk with the bureaucrats and with the police, that you are actually a militant organization, that you don't believe in the laws of the country, and that you are out to subvert society, and therefore the only way to treat you because of your violent activities is to counter it with further violence.
Yes, it's a classical case of disinformation, in fact, because well, their allegation is, especially when they banned MKSS soon after Arwal, because it became a major incident, then they decided to come out with a definite theory so that they can justify their actions. Actions of killing innocent peasant organizers in fake encounters and butchering the people like they did in Arwal. And Arwal is not the singular instance, there have been so many before and there will be so many after. They wanted to justify these acts of theirs, and for this they allege that we are a extremist organization, we operate underground, we have been killing people, murdering anybody who opposes us, and one of the allegations is that we have collected almost 300 firearms.
Would you categorically deny?
Then they say that the government has got documentary evidence to the effect. For example, one thing they have been saying specifically and categorically, that after Arwal, in a raid, police found a diary with my signatures, rather my seal on it, to the effect that MKSS had designs to run and form a parallel government in the rural areas. I want to categorically state the whole thing is 100% bogus and made up. What they have got, whenever journalists ask the Chief Minister and Director General Police and the senior officials, okay, you come out with the document, show us, because I publicly challenge them to make public the so-called documents and evidence, whatever they have got none. Then they said, oh no, it's not at this stage, it is not relevant, not important. They could never come out because there is none. What they have got in fact is, they have got a receipt book of MKSS. MKSS has got an annual subscription of 2 rupees per year, which is the basic subscription of membership which we collect from the people. Now naturally we are not like Congress I, who will collect the funds and money without being responsible to that, without receipts and all that. We collect a penny and we give receipt for that. So, and the receipt bears my signatures and my seal as MKSS president. This is the only document which they have got. Otherwise they have got absolutely nothing. Now actually when I analyze the whole thing, I find this is not a case of disinformation where the lower officials are supplying wrong information to the higher authorities and they do not know what exactly is the reality, so they are just saying yes, it's happening. No, they all know that they are creating disinformation with a definite objective. For example, I will tell you a little about myself. I have been working since last 14 years in Bihar, and initially I was working through Gandhian methodology only. I had undergone long fast. In Delhi also in 77 I had a 14 days fast for the demands of workers, irrigation department workers. I had a trade union there. In 79 I underwent a 21 days fast, after which I was arrested. It was done publicly and openly. I led 210 workers of our irrigation department from Rohtas district to be in jail for 4.5 months. We were in Bhagalpur jail. So whatever we have done it openly and peacefully rather. And this is on record, everybody knows that, there is nothing extraordinary about it. But knowing all these facts, still they are alleging that I am a ferocious underground extremist leader ordering the killings of the people, ordering the snatching of the rifles. The objective is that it is never a problem for a government like Bihar government to face a handful of underground extremists. If it was true that we were collecting firearms and we were murdering people, it will hardly make any difference to Bihar government, because Bihar is a province where there are well organized mafia gangs with hundreds of guns at their disposal. Different districts where MKSS is not active at all, they have got a much higher crime rate and murder rate compared to those areas where we are active. So, Bihar government, the state apparatus can withstand all this. This is no problem for them. The basic problem now they are facing, the government is facing and the ruling party is facing, that traditionally as their vote bank they had the Harjans, tribals, Muslims, all these were their vote banks. Now we are able to organize those deprived sections of the people in the society. So, like quicksand they are sliding from beneath their feet, and the ruling party is jittery. They do not know how to face this mass upsurge, mass organization. Millions and millions of people are challenging the whole social structure. They are challenging the whole traditional power structure of the society, and they are holding the ruling party responsible for whatever is happening, for whatever is their condition. Now, the government itself, through the help of the mass media, has made people aware of their rights. They have been using their television. Of course, basically they had their television to project Nehru family, but as a byproduct, they made people conscious of their own rights through various programs which they thought will present a very good image of their government. Now people in villages know there is a minimum wages act. They know there is a Bandhuwa Mazdoor Abolition Act, and still they are Bandhuwa Mazdoors. Still they are not given minimum wages. So people's consciousness has gone up. But the life is at the same place where it was in 15th century. This big gulf between the consciousness and the reality of life.
Why is it so?
Because nothing has been done to change the real life. Nothing has been done by the government or bureaucracy or by the politicians, even to implement the agrarian reforms, which are not revolutionary by any means, which are there basically to preserve the social structure. But the whole society is now so much, and the ruling clique is so much full of contradictions, that even now they cannot stand the officials who are honest in their day-to-day life, in their doing their duty. They can't stand them, immediately they are transferred. Because the ruling people, the ruling classes, they have lost confidence in themselves. So they don't come out today with a long-range policies. Everybody who comes in power thinks, I may be there for 6 months or 6 weeks or maybe half, 1 year and so on. So I must make the most of it, this little time, and therefore ruthlessly they indulge in getting whatever they can lay their hands on, and they cannot tolerate anybody, they cannot tolerate their laws made to protect their own system and their own class interest. They cannot tolerate the officials who are genuine and honest. They cannot tolerate the socio-political workers who are organizing the people and exerting pressure on the bureaucracy, on the state apparatus for the implementation of its own laws.
Why has this movement, MKSS movement, or this mass consciousness and this incidents of violence taken place more in the districts of Jahanabad and Rohtas?
I will like to add, it's not confined to Jahanabad and Rohtas. 7-8 districts are there which are today reflecting the ambitions of the rural poor, and there is a lot of struggle going on. There is Aurangabad, and there is Palamu, which is one of the major areas of MKSS operation, and then Rohtas is there, Bhojpur is there, where IPF is active rather. and Jahanabad, Patna, Gaya, Nalanda, all these areas are there. Why particularly in these areas? You say two things why in these areas, then you say violence. Why in these areas? The reason is that in central Bihar, the feudal structure is crumbling down. So it is natural as a matter of strategy that we attack a system at its weakest points. In North Bihar, the system is still intact. The landlords are very much real landlords even today. So they have got their cultural fineries and they have got a confidence in their existence. But in central Bihar, since the feudal structure is crumbling, it has lost its economic basis. Therefore, when a system crumbles, a decadent system becomes ferocious. So the landlords are ferocious since the system is weakest in this region. Therefore, we have selected this particular area to attack the system where it will crumble first. And since the system is weak and has lost its confidence, so it has become ferocious, and that is why there is so much violence in this area. Whenever people they raise their voice, immediately in this area there is a violent attempt to throttle their voice.
But isn't it ironic that most of the landlords in this area of these districts that you mentioned themselves belong to a backward class?
Not necessarily.
To a large extent.
No, in certain areas, if you really have a perspective of the area, I will tell you. Actually, the landlords are of two types in this whole region. One are classical old landlords, which are decaying, and the others are neo-rich landlords, those who have newly acquired wealth in land.
Like the Kurmis?
Yes, the neo-rich landlords are Kurmis and Yadavs in some areas, Koiris somewhere. They are neo-rich class, they are emerging class with the tremendous force of emerging class. But the classical landlords are Rajputs and Bhumiyars and Brahmins and of course very few Lalas, but they are Rajputs, Bhumiyars and Brahmins. They are classical old landlords who are decaying. So both are there. Now the neo-rich class, which is an emerging class, is much more ferocious compared to the old classes. And especially we have been seeing that the classical landlords are trying to diversify in some areas. For example, they are taking to contracts, business contracts, construction contracts of irrigation department and PWD department, and they are trying to, they are bus owners, then trying to proliferate and diversify into business and bureaucracy, some other areas, still they have got a hold on bureaucracy. But this neo-rich class mainly is concerned with the land. So they try to run their land arrangement and business with a very strong and very heavy hand. So both these are there. But then a very large section of Kurmis and Yadavs and all Koiris, all these people forms the middle class. So the problem for us is to be able to differentiate between the landlords among the middle caste and classes and the middle class peasants who are our allies. And we have been able to do it to a very great extent.
Now in this particular class struggle, you also have the caste wars that take place. You know, the many armies, the senas. How do you explain that phenomena?
Well, one thing which should be understood is caste is very much Indian reality. Though very primitive, but it still persists. Class and caste are not very, very different things. In fact, they have got an interrelationship. When a caste becomes mobilized, it becomes class. When class becomes stagnant, it becomes caste. Caste is the social reflection of the same phenomenon, of which economic reflection is the class. So there is an interrelationship. For example, Harijans. Harijan is a caste, okay. But since last 3,000–4,000 years, Harjans in general have been deprived of all the private property in the society. Now their character of being deprived of private property is a class character, and their character of being Harjan, being untouchables, is a caste character. So both they coincide in many cases.